October, the undisputed best month of the year. Hoodie weather, candy corn, and spoopy movies. Now, while I do have some more horror-themed stuff coming up this month on the channel, I wanted to discuss the curious case of Crybaby Lane, a made-for-TV Nickelodeon horror movie that after being premiered on TV one time, was never heard from again, until about a decade ago. And that's always fascinated me. Anytime a piece of media is there and gone, and it's only then after a period of time we find the answers to why that was, truly piques my curiosity. So to kick off some more horror-esque content, let's take a look at what Crybaby Lane was, why it became so infamous, and vanished from Nickelodeon's catalog. October 28th, 2000. Nickelodeon would premiere a film titled Crybaby Lane as a part of their SNCC Halloween-themed broadcasting block to fit the season, and was hosted by Melissa Joan Hart of Clarissa Explains It All and Sabrina the Teenage Witch fame at the time. But what would have been your average original television movie turned into infamy would premiere on this date and then never be heard from again. Until 2011 when it did, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So how did Crybaby Lane become what would be considered lost media for over a decade and be purposely forgotten by the network, and to this day still is barely remembered by the masses? First, let's take a look at the film, what it's all about, and see if we can start to get an understanding. The movie follows the story of Andrew and his brother Carl being told the tale of a farmer who is a father to conjoined twins, but with one being good and the other being evil. With the shame the farmer felt, he hid the twins away within a locked room where they would eventually fall ill and pass away. To hide them away further, the farmer sawed the twins apart, burying the good twin in a regular cemetery and separating them, burying the evil twin near the farmer's house in a shallow grave. And as kids do, Andrew, Carl, and their friends decide to head to the cemetery and perform a seance. While they performed this act near the body of the good twin, it's the evil twin that gets awakened, who then goes on to wreak havoc in their town and possess nearly everyone. Now, what makes the film more interesting is that it is loosely based off of Ohio ghost stories that the director Peter Lauer heard while growing up. Quoted when speaking to The Daily, "There was a haunted farmhouse, and if you went up there at midnight, you could hear a baby crying. It'd make your high school girlfriend scared." Okay, Peter, anyone would be scared. But in searching further, Crybaby Lane in Bowling Green, Ohio, taking place in the city limits on Euler Road, seems to showcase something more sinister, with the urban legend about a young mother one night walking Euler Road was cradling her sleeping baby. Distraught and crying, she walked over to a tree by the side of the road, proceeding to then climb the tree, baby still in arms, stopping at the first branch, tying up a blanket around the neck of the baby, and then, well, you can see where that was going. To this day, any traveler making their way through Euler Road gets filled with a sense of dread and constant uneasy feelings. Reports of electrical disturbances affecting cell phones and car radios have been reported, as well as some claim the distant sounds of a baby crying with an echoing reverberation. And some even claim to have seen the ghost of the baby being held by its neck from the blanket attached to the branch of the tree. But that's just an urban legend, right?
Nickelodeon has staked a claim for you. SNCC, every Saturday night on Nickelodeon.
You're watching SNCC.
Just a quick warning for the next several seconds here, I will be spoiling the ending of the film, so jump to the time on the screen if you wish not to hear it. As far as the rest of the movie itself, following the events of the seance, we learn about the big reveal of the twins being swapped when buried, meaning that the seance wasn't performed on the good twin, but the evil one. Andrew must cut the root that is wrapped around the good twin's skeleton, all the while the evil twin is trying to refill the grave with dirt and bury Andrew alive. But just in the nick of time, he cuts the root and the evil twin vanishes. Now, sure, the film was a bit darker than most things on Nickelodeon, but in hindsight, the film doesn't feel that envelope pushing now, kind of. The biggest issue the movie faced was instant backlash from parents citing the film was too dark for a family-friendly kid and teen-focused network. But why would Nickelodeon go through with premiering this movie and not think a wave of instant backlash would ensue following certain details of what the film had offered? Well, the start of its production life wasn't as how Nick envisioned it. The tone they were going for originally when when planning everything was a mildly scary, are you afraid of the dark type of feeling, allowing it to fit in with the horror-esque content already found on the channel. But now with the backlash in full effect, what was Nickelodeon to do after pulling it off the air following its first airing? Well, Nickelodeon claiming that it was an accidental airing at the time with no claim of ownership to the film sure helps reduce the onslaught of parental complaints for one. In many other instances, Nick had never acknowledged it for a long time after as to not bring any further attention to it, which is smart when you're trying to cover up something, like burying your children after sawing them in half. Now tell me, does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? Another horrifying story tying into the name Crybaby Lane takes place in Raleigh, North Carolina, wherein which a Roman Catholic orphanage burned down in the later 1950s, sadly taking the lives of the children trapped inside. Months after this, residents close by reported still smelling smoke as if the fire was still raging, even the feeling of their lungs filling up with smoke when walking in the empty field where the orphanage once stood. But this would only be the beginning of what some would come to claim. Voices are said to be heard that grow louder the longer you are hearing them. The sounds of crying and even screaming children would cut through the silence of the empty field. Today, most of the houses that were in close proximity to the once orphanage are now abandoned, as most wanted nothing to do with living near where the horrible and tragic event took place. An eerie feeling of pure dread and sadness are all that remain if you are brave enough to stroll by. For years and years after, the memories of a horror movie that no one can recall every exact detail about picked up more and more traction through different forums online. Most leads always ended at some sort of roadblock with only slight clues and minimal answers, but nothing concrete enough to fully prove its existence. The real sparks of hope came in the form of a TV guide listing on the film and a synopsis of the movie on Fandango, as one of the clips surfaced around the internet. But still, no full versions of the film came to light. In January of 2011, the full investigation into Crybaby Lane ramped up to a large group effort. The website huntforcbl.blogspot.com, with the header "The Hunt for Crybaby Lane," would now be at the forefront of compiling every bit of information regarding the film, starting with everything they had uncovered so far, ran by a user going by the name Malik, with details such as knowing the name of the film, when it had aired, and the several unfinished leads that they had had. Some of those included knowing someone who had a copy of the film minus the first 15 minutes and wanted $30 for the tape, which in honesty, even though it may be a bit sketchy, what's $30 at this point to a decade-long mystery? Even just to find out if that lead wasn't real, at least to me, would be well worth the $30.
Change is good. Snick with us.
Snick continues.
After finding a user on YouTube who uploaded a trailer of the film, contacting him for information didn't lead anywhere as the user never replied. Another effort tried was a petition for Nickelodeon to acknowledge and in some way show in its entirety the film. Unfortunately, that didn't work either. After more people were becoming aware of this hunt for Crybaby Lane, more stories about recalling the movie in detail started to come forward, as well as photographic evidence of at least one of the rumored tapings of the film out there. But there still just wasn't enough of a force out there pushing this pursuit to gain larger attention. That is, until a creepypasta took the internet by storm, painting this more than thought of disturbing picture of why this film is hidden and things that didn't make the final cut that when described in this post become immediately clear that this was all fake. While an interesting creepypasta, this post would be easily disproved, especially once we actually got to see the film once it was released. But there is a good thing that this post did, and that was bringing said attention to Crybaby Lane and the hunt for it. It wasn't until August of the same year that the film would be handed over from a user by the name of Fire Peach Salad to Malik, and thus this decade-long mystery has come to an end. The full movie had been dispersed around, garnering so much attention that it is speculated to be the reason why Teen Nick decided to re-air the film that year on TV for Halloween on October 31st, 2011. After that, it would air several more times over the years, and now a decade after it was found, we get to sit here and look back at the original decade-long search for Crybaby Lane. The film's director, Pete Lauer, even commented on the film coming back to TV and seeing such a dedicated group of people who worked for years to rediscover it, saying he just assumed they didn't show it again because they didn't like it. I thought it failed and I moved on. Nickelodeon would later claim that it was just forgotten about. Nothing more than that. it wasn't banned or lost or anything along those lines, which with all the evidence pointing to them doing so, as well as how hard people had to work to find it, this claim seems like another quick outing of responsibility on their end. I for one do think that Nickelodeon never intended for this film to be found, and in an effort to look good, played along and released the film again on TV to wipe away any possible stains it left during its original premiere and backlash. But all of this is surely up for debate. So what do you think? Let me know. As well as if you've seen the movie, do you think it deserved the backlash it received from parents for the nature of its content? Or was it a lot more tame than it was rumored to be? I hope you all had some fun with today's video. I have some more nostalgic horror content coming later this month, so make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Make sure to follow me on Twitter as well for all the updates regarding my content, and I'll be back soon with a new video. But until then, later.